Josh Jacobs opened up about his contract situation with the Raiders, and he said something damning. He straight up said the Raiders have not disrespected him yet, meaning he expects them to disrespect him.
I ain't felt disrespected in any type of way yet, so
He was also asked about the Raiders quarterback position. Apparently Josh Jacobs knows the three guys they're interested in.
Me too, but I know they the three that they looking at, so we'll see.
Could one of these guys be Aaron Rodgers, who's currently golfing right now, and Raiders fans are hollering saying, dude, please join this team.
I'm just gonna say that the predominant team that we hear as we're walking is Raiders. A lot of Raider fans are encouraging me. A lot of Devontae misses you comments.
And Aaron Rodgers is not committing to anything, but he's clearly enjoying the fun of Raiders fans wanting him to come to Vegas.
Raiders.
Jacobs, however, interesting that he said he talked to the coaching staff about the QB situation towards the end of the season. He even went as far as to say that Brady was a contingency plan. However, without his contract situation completely stable, do we really think they're telling Jacobs everything about who the Raiders' next QB is gonna be? Jacobs made it seem like he's not just gonna straight up sign with the Raiders. He was asked about his tweet where he says it gotta make sense, and he repeated that same point in this interview.
However it goes, that's how it's gonna go. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not too much worried about it, but it definitely gotta make sense.
Not that the season.
But he said they technically have not had contract negotiations, and then he said that crazy remark, and he was asked about it where he said, oh, they have not disrespected me yet.
I mean, I guess when does the disrespect start if they haven't talked to you?
Yeah, we're gonna see.
So when asked when does the disrespect start, he says maybe next week when they're gonna talk about his contract. But it did sound like in the interview he's excited to do what's best for him. He's excited to kind of have all his options open and a lot of cards on the table that he could choose from. And he did say he wants to be with the Raiders, but he mentioned he's already bought a house here. So, you know, it's kind of like, oh, I might as well be here because I already bought a house here. But he did say something very interesting where he said he's not gonna discredit himself just to be in Vegas.
For me, this is where I want to be, but I'm not going to discredit myself trying to be here either. So, you know what I'm saying? So it just got to make sense.
So clearly he does anticipate that the Raiders are going to lowball him in terms of a contract. That's why he's making these comments that he's not going to harm himself just to be a Raider. He's excited to have all his options open. Obviously, he was the #1 running back in the NFL last year, so he probably has a decent market out there if he was to test free agency. The Raiders, however, if they cannot come to a multi-year agreement, will likely try to franchise tag Josh Jacobs. In that case, he will cost about $10 million for the 2023 season. This is what happens when you franchise tag somebody, you get that top 5 averaged out contract. And Jacobs, when asked about being franchise tagged by the Raiders, made this cryptic comment saying, oh, if that happens, then hero turned villain. Does this mean if the Raiders try to hold him hostage with the franchise tag, he's gonna maybe think about holding out? The hero, Josh Jacobs, the beloved player by Raiders fans, is gonna turn into a villain because he will hold out in that scenario? Who knows, but it was interesting to see Josh Jacobs be so frank about his situation. He was even asked about getting recruited by other players of other teams while he was at their Pro Bowl, and it's definitely happening.
Definitely been a lot of recruiting going on. Definitely a lot of recruiting, you know. Dude, every time he see me, he'd be like, man, stop tampering, you know what I'm saying?
So this is an interesting situation because Josh Jacobs did do everything right as a running back last year. He became a captain, even though the staff was not sold on him. They declined his 5th-year option, and instead of being like, oh, I'm gonna check out and preserve my body for free agency, Josh Jacobs went out there and became the #1 running back in the NFL straight up, even though he had an uncertain contract situation. And now the Raiders have to make a decision to pay this guy or let him test the open market. And it seems like if they do decide to franchise tag him, things might get tricky because he knows he can get a multi-year deal somewhere else. And the Aaron Rodgers situation becomes interesting on top of this because if the Raiders do trade for Aaron Rodgers, not only are you losing draft picks, but you are paying for a veteran quarterback. He is going to be owed that $58 million bonus. So when you trade for somebody like Aaron Rodgers, even though you probably have more cap space because you're going to release Derek Carr, it still makes it difficult to afford players like Josh Jacobs. That's why I believe draft drafting a quarterback makes it easier for the Raiders to build a good team around that rookie quarterback, and Josh Jacobs would be a great piece behind a rookie quarterback because a running game is a quarterback's best friend. So we'll keep you up to date with everything happening with Josh Jacobs. It seems like a decision will be made next week. Free agency obviously kicks off in March, so this will all be resolved very soon. Hey, like this video if you have not yet, and subscribe to this channel for more Raiders content. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.